Okay, let's delve deeper into something really unsettling today. We're embarking on a deep dive into a collection of intensely personal accounts, stories shared online that, well, many have been eager to get off their chests and maybe find some understanding for. These aren't your typical campfire tales or urban legends. These are raw, real life encounters with the strange, the threatening, and the truly chillingly unknown. Our mission to distill the crucial nuggets of insight from these experiences, these really human experiences, helping you, our listener, to maybe recognize the subtle red flags, to truly trust your instincts, and perhaps just maybe to view the everyday world through a slightly more aware lens.
Yeah, what's truly fascinating here is how these narratives, though they're incredibly diverse in the specifics, they often echo similar themes, vulnerability, the power of intuition, that gut feeling, and that, well, chilling realization that while some threats are deeply human, kind of manipulative, others manifest in truly bizarre, almost unexplainable ways. So we're not just exploring what happened in these stories, but really diving into why these particular experiences resonate so deeply with us. And maybe most importantly, what tangible lessons we can pull from them to better navigate our own lives in this often unpredictable world.
Exactly. Think of it as a guided tour, maybe, into the core of the human experience of fear and survival, and sometimes unseen threats all around us, all guided by these raw, unfiltered accounts from people who've lived to tell the tale. And we're going to start by looking at some encounters where people found themselves face to face with unnerving human behavior, often in places they thought were completely safe. So we're beginning our exploration with stories where, yeah, seemingly ordinary human interaction takes a sinister turn, an unexpected one. These accounts really highlight how quickly a situation that looks completely normal can escalate into something terrifying. Often by preying on our trust, our social conditioning, or just the subtle norms we all kind of follow. Let's start by looking at how manipulation can begin subtly eroding boundaries before we even really register what's happening. Okay, this first story, it really pulls you in. It's about a sixth grade student and her band instructor, Miss Frond. On the surface, it seemed innocent enough, right? An offer for extra clarinet lessons, but it rapidly spiraled into something much more disturbing. At its core, this is a story about a profound breach of trust. A gradual wearing down of boundaries that, especially for a young person, is just incredibly difficult to spot early on. The narrator mentions Miss Frond's persistent offers, these extra lessons at her own house, even though the student was clearly uncomfortable and kept refusing. This wasn't just a one-time thing, it was a weekly, relentless offer. That kind of repeated pressure, that insidious attempt to normalize something uncomfortable or inappropriate, that's textbook subtle manipulation.
And this narrative immediately brings up a critical question, doesn't it? How many times do we, as adults, or how often do children, just dismiss those initial feelings of unease, that quiet voice? This story is such a stark reminder of the importance of listening to that gut feeling, that internal alarm, even when you can't quite articulate why something feels off. The repeated offers from Miss Frond, the subtle attempts at isolation, and then the sudden forceful action later on, that they're all classic red flags in what experts call a grooming pattern. The student's own intuitive discomfort, even being so young, it was a crucial internal alarm bell. But, unfortunately, she wasn't really equipped to act on it effectively back then, given her age, her innocence. Grooming, like we see here, isn't just one single event. It's a methodical, calculated process. It involves building trust, gradually testing and pushing boundaries, and ultimately normalizing inappropriate behavior over time.
Right. And that erosion, like you said, it really escalates. The terrifying turning point comes during a school Christmas parade. Seems normal enough. After all the other kids get picked up, the narrator finds herself the very last one left alone with Miss Frond, and the instructor immediately grabs her hand. A firm grip, possessive, not just a casual touch. Then, with this chilling calmness, Miss Frond says, "I can call my mom from her house." But instead of heading towards where parents were picking up or even back to the school, Miss Frond starts booking it, moving fast, purposefully pulling the child along with her, away from safety. The narrator, she's still just a kid, right? She says she had very little experience being on my own and didn't know how to act, so she just kind of passively went along, despite that feeling of discomfort she'd started having around Miss Frond. It really shows how compliance, just born from inexperience and, social conditioning, can be exploited.
Yeah, and what's particularly chilling and really insightful here is the difference between how it looked and how it felt, the visual versus the reality. The narrator notes, "It probably didn't look that unusual to anyone because she wasn't tall, and I really shot up in sixth grade, so it's not like I was being dragged." That comment just vividly highlights how predatory intent can be masked. hidden by outward appearances and social context. It makes it incredibly hard for bystanders to see a dangerous situation unfolding. The lack of a visible struggle from the outside can tragically make the child's inner terror completely invisible. It lets the abduction attempt just proceed. That's why understanding the subtle cues like the repeated offers or that sudden forceful grip is so incredibly vital.
Exactly. But thankfully, in this case, her mother's own intuition, that powerful gut feeling, kicks in right at the crucial moment. Suddenly, the narrator hears her name being yelled, and she turns to see her mom panting and sprinting towards us. Her mom immediately, forcefully yanked me from Miss Fran's grip, and the silence afterwards, the complete lack of explanation that's equally striking. The narrator says, "My family never spoke about it." And the impact lingers. Even today, the narrator still wonders, I don't even know her first name to look her up. That lasting impact, those unanswered questions, they just speak volumes about the deep personal trauma of something like that, even if it wasn't discussed openly. It shows how these things embed themselves in us. Okay, building on that theme of persistent, unwelcome attention, our next account shows how even public spaces can become, well, stages for escalating harassment. We're moving to a story now that introduces someone called the retail stalker, a figure named John. This is a deeply unsettling account. It details an employee's experience at a farm and pet supply store with an older male customer whose fixation quickly becomes disturbing, menacing even. From their very first interaction, there's an immediate, explicit threat, just chillingly disguised as a joke. When the narrator was helping John look at electric fences, he says, "Oh yes, I'm looking to use the shot color maybe on you." That's not just creepy or awkward, it's an overt threatening statement wrapped in this veneer of casual chat. It's designed to test boundaries and immediately set up a really disturbing power dynamic.
hmm And what's truly illuminating here is how quickly that joke escalates, way beyond any acceptable social norm. His later comments, things like, "I've been looking for you, I bought what I wanted, I didn't know what you said, I wanted to slap you the next time I saw you." Well, they're no longer veiled or ambiguous, are they? That is a clear, undeniable verbal threat. It vividly shows this dangerous sense of entitlement and aggression, and this type of interaction quickly moves beyond just discomfort into outright menace. Yet it's happening in a public store, a commercial space, which often gives victims this false sense of security because other people are around, you expect safety.
And the situation just keeps getting worse. John starts persistently seeking the narrator out in the store, repeatedly asking her out, even though she's politely but firmly declining. She gets to the point where she's actively hiding to avoid him, which is just an awful, terrifying position to be in when your job literally requires you to be visible and help customers. Then he starts making these deeply uncomfortable, really specific observations, like, "Just so you know, I'm not dressed up for you today. I have a meeting with the bank, but if I didn't, I'd be taking you out for lunch. You know, I can tell you dyed your hair, you look so beautiful, but that doesn't mean anything to you, does it?" Oh, that statement just reveals a disturbing level of watching her, intrusive observation of her appearance, and this manipulative attempt to get a positive response from her, mixed with the subtle shaming because she's not reciprocating.
Right. And the profound lack of institutional support here is, well, it's a significant red flag in itself. It speaks volumes about broader societal issues. The narrator explicitly says, "He was never banned from the store even after one of my managers heard him say these things to me." This highlights the immense difficulty victims often face in getting official protection or even just basic intervention at work. It forces them to rely on these informal, often precarious networks, like coworkers would tell me when he was in the store and help me get away from him. This underscores how environments that are supposed to offer safety and structure can actually, inadvertently, facilitate persistent harassment. It's because of a systemic failure to adequately deal with threatening behavior. It speaks to a culture where, sometimes, customer satisfaction seems prioritized over employee safety, leaving people incredibly vulnerable.
That's a critical point. The environment itself, a public retail store, somehow provided a stage for this escalating harassment. There's that pervasive feeling of being trapped, right? Trapped by your job, by the expectation to help the customer, even when that customer is clearly and repeatedly threatening you. It really brings into sharp focus the vulnerability people in service roles can face. You're expected to be polite, helpful, accommodating, and predators, unfortunately, they know this. They're acutely aware of these social expectations, and they absolutely exploit them, knowing victims often feel they can't push back effectively because of potential job consequences. Okay, our next story, featuring the godly man, is truly harrowing. It showcases a terrifyingly manipulative control tactic that just preys on trust and vulnerability. An 18-year-old, exhausted after a double shift, makes what seems like a harmless decision accepting a ride home from an elderly man. It's a decision she very quickly and profoundly regrets. Initially, his age and the fact there was a Bible in the back seat made her think he was probably safe. He acted genuinely concerned and sounded very sweet, meticulously creating this false sense of comfort, of security that turned out to be a very thin veil over some really sinister intentions.
hmm But even before the journey really starts, these immediate, crucial red flags pop up. The car itself is old and broken down. He has to physically get out to open her passenger door. Now, that might seem minor, maybe just an old car thing, but the critical detail follows right after. He immediately tells her the passenger door didn't open from the inside. That single detail, seemingly trivial, instantly limits her escape options. It deliberately turns what could look like a polite gesture into a calculated move to trap her. That's subtle but profoundly sinister. It indicates premeditation, control. It's a classic isolation tactic, cutting off easy escape.
Absolutely. Then the conversation takes this dramatic, chilling turn. What starts as polite compliments about her uniform, her hair, even a weird story about how she supposedly looks like his late wife, quickly morphs into deeply disturbing, intrusive personal questions. He gradually turned to whether or not I was on my period. When she, maybe laughing it off or just confused, asks why he'd want to know something so personal, he very calmly, explicitly states, "Because if you're fertile, we should start trying for a family right away." That statement isn't just inappropriate, it's an explicit, terrifying declaration of intent. It completely shatters that carefully built facade of kindness and reveals the predator underneath.
And his justification for this abhorrent proposal is truly chilling in its twisted logic. He claims God had kept him lonely for years, but now I look so much like his late wife. It was clear I was meant to be his, so he could start life over again and finally have lots of children. This is a profound example of cognitive distortion, right? He's completely reinterpreted reality, even religious ideas, to justify his perverse desires. He then physically escalates, grabs her hand, kisses it, and chillingly says, "I can't wait to show you our new bed." He swiftly denies her every attempt to leave, tells her she can get what she forgot at work tomorrow, tells her she can just hold it until they get home if she needs the bathroom. He makes it unequivocally clear he wasn't going to let me out. The trap is fully sprung, and his words are pure psychological coercion, deeply rooted in this self-serving, dangerous interpretation of faith and destiny.
But here's where we see truly remarkable quick thinking, almost like psychological jujitsu. The narrator brilliantly uses his own religious manipulation against him, remembering many, many, many days of church sermons. She suddenly blurts out, "You're going to get my father's permission to marry me before taking me home, right? God would want that, right? You need to do that because otherwise we'd be living in sin." She's not just holding him to some abstract moral code. She's holding him to his perceived godly image, his self-proclaimed righteousness. He initially gets offended, arrogantly claiming he knows the Bible better, but crucially he agrees. She then insists they absolutely cannot live in sin. He must go to her actual house to ask her father's permission. She gives him a fake house number far away from mine to buy herself time, and she maintains this incredibly light, almost joking tone through the whole terrifying charade, even as her life is hanging in the balance.
Yet, if we connect this to the bigger picture, this story is a true masterclass in strategic thinking under unimaginable pressure. What we see here isn't just quick thinking. It's a sophisticated understanding of her aggressor's psychological weaknesses, his ego. This godly man had built his entire predatory justification on this twisted, self-serving view of faith. The narrator's brilliance was recognizing that immediately and leveraging his own perceived values, his desperate need to appear godly and righteous directly against him. She didn't argue his perverse logic. Instead, she subtly brought in a higher authority within his own religious framework, citing many church sermons to demand her father's permission. This basically gave him a perceived win-a-righteous path in his warped mind to his goal, but it simultaneously created a crucial delay and, most importantly, an exit strategy for her. This isn't just about staying calm. It's about rapidly building a counter-narrative that disarms the aggressor by playing into their ego or belief system while secretly setting up your escape. It's a powerful lesson in tactical communication, mental agility in a crisis. She even managed to convince him to drive around the block so she could supposedly pack her clothes, buying herself those precious moments to run to her actual home, bolt the door, and shove the couch in front of it. Just incredible self-preservation.
That's a profound point. It's not about directly confronting the threat sometimes, but finding a way to subtly redirect their energy or beliefs to your advantage, like psychological jujitsu. Yeah. Okay, let's transition now to situations where the threats are less subtle, where the manipulation quickly gives way to overt danger, escalating rapidly to imminent physical harm. Our next story is a terrifying account from the Redwood Forest, aptly titled The Redwood Encounter. Two friends, just enjoying a walk in nature, find themselves facing a man who quickly, violently shifts from asking odd questions to issuing explicit, chilling threats. The narrator's sister recounted how he appeared out of practically nowhere, initially looking completely normal and was even kind of handsome, yet he gave off a creepy vibe pretty quickly. That initial unsettling feeling, that gut-level discomfort, even when there's no clear, rational, visual reason for it, that's precisely the intuition kicking in, providing that crucial early warning.
Yeah, that's a classic example of an immediate primal alert system just going off. He almost immediately started asking them weird questions like who they were and what they were doing out in his woods. Okay. When they, quite reasonably, explained they were just exploring a public park, he quickly got annoyed and said they were liars. This confrontational accusatory tone, challenging their presence in what should be a shared public space, that's a major red flag. It signals territoriality and attempt to establish dominance. It sets a dangerous stage for more direct aggression. This kind of verbal challenge is actually a common pre-attack indicator, testing boundaries, assessing how assertive the victim might be.
It definitely doesn't just get worse, it explodes into hostility. He then veers into incredibly inappropriate, sexually harassing, and deeply offensive territory. He demands that they kiss each other because he knew they were lesbian lovers, and they are not lesbians, by the way. This mix of sexual harassment and homophobic insensitivity is a clear, aggressive escalation. It's designed to demean and control. When they tried to disengage, just telling him to leave them alone, he instantly got scary as hell. He gave them the most evil and hateful look she's ever seen in her life and delivered this chilling, unforgettable line. "You two are such disrespectful bitches. I've killed a few of you over the last few years, and I'd love to add you both to my account."
Wow. That explicit threat of violence and murder isn't just a turning point. It's an immediate life or death declaration. It's no longer just a creepy or unsettling encounter. It transforms instantly into a direct, unambiguous, life-threatening statement from someone claiming to be a serial killer. The immediate flight that followed wasn't just justified, it was absolutely necessary. As they heard him chasing after them and screaming at them, even threatening he would chop them up. This terrifying sequence just vividly shows a rapid, unprovoked shift from an unsettling interaction to a full-blown life-or-death situation. It really emphasizes how quickly perceived safety can just vanish in isolated environments. The aggressor's rapid escalation suggests a severe lack of impulse control and a clear intent to harm.
So what's the crucial takeaway here? This story vividly shows a terrifyingly fast escalation. One minute you're having an odd, uncomfortable conversation. The next you're being explicitly threatened with murder and chased through the woods. It starkly underscores how quickly that veil of normalcy can drop, especially in isolated areas where there are fewer potential witnesses or immediate help. They did manage to get safely out of the woods, called the police, left the area. But the narrator's visceral reaction, "I'm scared and pissed off that some creep did this to them," really hammers home the lasting psychological impact, the profound sense of violation such an encounter leaves. It reminds us that physical escape doesn't always mean emotional or psychological escape, does it? Next, we dive into The Fishing Trip, a story that, looking back, reveals a truly close call for a 10-year-old girl. She's fishing with her famously overprotective father in an isolated spot when a group of men try to lure her to their cabin. The narrator describes herself at the time as a 10-year-old little blonde girl in a bathing suit, noting she was an early bloomer and was getting curvy. Now, this detail, it might make some listeners uncomfortable, but it's critical because it highlights a heightened vulnerability to being sexualized and targeted by predators who are often looking for specific physical traits or vulnerabilities.
Right. And what's particularly insightful here is the carefully orchestrated setup itself. There were 3 or 4 guys sitting on a rock and 3 or 4 more in the water in this isolated natural area. The narrator's naive perspective at the time, thinking, maybe my naivety stems from the fact that they were about the same age as my brothers, but I wasn't really concerned, is such a poignant reminder of how children see the world through a vastly different lens than adults. They often lack the context to identify true danger. Predators often rely on this innocence, this lack of experience, using seemingly friendly approaches to mask their sinister intent.
Yeah, that's right. They engage in what seems like innocent small talk, which quickly and predictably, leads to a specific question designed to hook her. What kind of dog I liked?
Yeah.
When she responds, husky, they immediately pounce with the prepared lure. Oh, wow, we have a husky at our cabin. Want to come meet it? This is a classic predatory tactic. Identify a child's interest and use it as bait to isolate them, draw them away from their parents or guardians. But here's where a simple, ingrained childhood rule becomes an almost accidental, yet incredibly powerful lifeline. Her immediate, unthinking response wasn't driven by fear, but by deeply ingrained habit. Yeah, let me go ask my dad.
What's truly fascinating here is how that ask your parents rule acts as this almost accidental yet incredibly effective defense mechanism against a calculated predatory strategy. It profoundly highlights how seemingly simple childhood rules, often taught just for social etiquette or basic safety, can inadvertently protect against sophisticated predatory tactics designed specifically to isolate and exploit. Her father's intuition, already sharp because of his protective nature, was an immediate, resounding heck no. He's described as the kind of dad who'd break a double-pane door if she went missing or stand between her and a bear, a testament to his hypervigilance. His protective actions and the fact the men vanished when they returned strongly suggest they sensed danger from the father or realized their window of opportunity had closed. This shows how even a brief delay can disrupt a predator's plan, which often relies on speed and surprise.
And the retrospective realization from the narrator is utterly chilling. The narrator, now 28, reflects with this newfound clarity. I didn't realize how bad this could have been if I had just gone until recently. I genuinely hadn't considered it, but now I think about it as the time I nearly escaped possibly getting trafficked because of the age-old ask your parents rule. This powerful reflection just underscores how long it can take to fully process and understand the true gravity of these close calls, and how easily a seemingly harmless interaction, if not for an ingrained boundary, could have taken a tragic, irreversible turn. It's a testament to the quiet, subtle ways we can be protected, and how profoundly those moments shape our understanding of the world years later. Our next story, the dating app disaster, serves as a stark, chilling reminder of the hidden dangers lurking in our increasingly digital world. A university student goes on a date with a guy she met on a dating app. He initially seemed super sweet and charming over text. Her friends even knew him as a funny guy from a pretty prestigious university, which, in a very insidious way, lent this false sense of security that he would be normal. This just illustrates how carefully crafted online personas and social validation can effectively mask deeply disturbed or dangerous individuals, overriding our initial gut feelings.
Yeah, this is where we see those textbook red flags starting to appear almost immediately. First, there's the blatant disregard for her time and boundaries. He was supposed to meet me at 6:00, but ended up picking me up at 8:30. This small but significant power play establishes control early on. Then, instead of the planned picnic, he drives her to his apartment, which was disturbingly only lit with one candle and a small glowing light on the floor. It was a multiple-bedroom apartment that he lived in alone, creating this isolated, intimate, and profoundly uncomfortable environment. He also seemed nervous and uneasy for the most of it, which, while maybe not a direct threat itself, adds to the general unease and hints at a psychological tension within him that's about to come out.
That initial unease quickly gives way to something far more sinister. The conversation takes a truly disturbing, abrupt turn. He suddenly shifts to discussing our deepest, darkest secrets and poses the chilling question, ever seriously thought about killing anyone? After she understandably says no, he makes up this bizarre story about being in the Navy and killing 5 people, then dismisses it as a joke when she's clearly unsure how to react. But he immediately follows this with a chilling, unprompted, and deeply specific confession. He had seriously thought about killing someone else, his ex's current boyfriend. That's not a joke. That's a direct, unvarnished disclosure of homicidal intent, revealing a profound and dangerous psychological instability.
And just when you think it can't possibly escalate further, it does. Before leaving, he said he wanted to show me something and pulled out a rifle that he pointed in my direction. His eerily calm demeanor combined with the deadly weapon is deeply unsettling. His claim that it was just for hunting but that he couldn't think of even killing an animal, a stark, direct contradiction to his earlier confession of homicidal thoughts, is profoundly disturbing. It suggests a deeply disturbed individual capable of both fantasizing graphic violence and then immediately dismissing or denying it. It indicates a severe disconnect from reality and a dangerous level of psychological duplicity. This kind of cognitive dissonance in an aggressor is a major red flag for severe underlying mental instability.
What strikes me here is how these layers of red flags are almost textbook examples of escalating danger. From the minor ones, like being late and the unsettling apartment, to the major, life-threatening ones like confessing homicidal thoughts and waving a weapon around. It's a chilling reminder that the persona presented online or even through friends can be radically different from the frightening reality, and how our intuition often screams at us even when our logical minds try to find excuses or downplay the threat. The narrator fortunately got back safely to a friend's place, and everyone I've told has been flabbergasted. But that persistent, deeply unsettling feeling that something was off about him and it's creeping me out, and to clarify, I mean like something more sinister, just speaks volumes about the lasting psychological impact and that profound instinctual understanding of a deeper threat. Okay, moving to our next unsettling encounter. The park encounter offers a powerful, deeply insightful demonstration of animal intuition acting as a primal warning system. A woman is walking her dog, BB, in a park. It's usually busy, but it happened to be sparsely populated on a cold spring day. This sparse population creates an environment of increased vulnerability for a lone walker, right?
Hmm.
Her dog, BB, starts acting strange, pulling on the leash and seemed anxious even before the owner consciously registered anything wrong with two men walking behind her. This precognitive warning from an animal is a key element here. It precedes human awareness.
Yeah, this immediately raises a crucial question about the profound role of animal intuition. It's like a primal warning system that often surpasses our own conscious awareness. The dog's warning beforehand is incredibly significant. The men's behavior quickly becomes overtly suspicious. They walk at a pretty quick clip, then inexplicably stop, and Man A leaned in and whispered something in Man B's ear. Man B then walks ahead, and then Man A turned around and started walking back towards me. This coordinated, unusual movement is a significant red flag. It strongly suggests they were splitting up, possibly to flank her, maybe cut off an escape route, or just create a more isolated situation designed to trap her. These are classic predatory tactics, observation, and maneuvering.
And the interaction that follows is truly chilling. As Man A passes, they make eye contact. The narrator offers what she describes as just a reflexive, polite smile. However, the smile she got back, she says, makes my skin crawl to this day. In that profoundly unsettling moment, her dog distinctly positioned herself between me and him. That's an incredibly powerful nonverbal cue from an animal known for being friendly, an unequivocal protective stance. The narrator then realizes Man B has seemingly vanished, probably to a nearby bathroom, and Man A is coming up fast, not quite running, but speed walking. The feeling of being boxed in or specifically targeted, it just intensifies rapidly, moving from vague discomfort to palpable fear.
The dog's behavior, especially from one known for being consistently friendly, is an unequivocal signal of perceived imminent threat. It profoundly underscores that sometimes nonverbal cues, especially from highly attuned animals, can be far more reliable and immediate than our rational attempts to explain away discomfort or find logical reasons for odd behavior. Trusting that primal instinct, whether it's your own or, like in this case, your pet's, is absolutely crucial. In this critical moment, the narrator wisely decides to sit on a bench, pretend to be on the phone with her husband, deliberately putting him on speaker and loudly stating, "Yeah, I'm turning around now, I should be back shortly." She's hoping this audible display of connection would deter Man A by introducing a perceived witness and reducing her isolation.
But the climax of this story is truly dramatic, incredibly impactful. Her dog, BB, who truly is the friendliest dog in the world, lunged at this man snarling and barking. She's part Norwegian Elkwood, so her bark is described as pretty jarring, and critically, she had never once done anything like this in the 6+ years I've had her. The man's immediate reaction: he sidestepped and skewered away. This dog's unprecedented protective instinct, a complete break from her normal temperament, likely saved her owner from a potentially dangerous situation. It proves that sometimes our furry companions aren't just our best friends, but also the most accurate and, well, aggressive alarm systems we have when human judgment might waver. Finally, in this extensive section on overt threats, we turn to the eHarmony date, a meticulously calculated and truly terrifying attempt at abduction that unfolded with chilling precision. This harrowing story, told by the daughter, involves her mother, Shelley, who met a man online. Shelley was initially gushing about how manly and charming he was, despite her daughter's collective gut feeling that it sounded off. His eHarmony profile headline, "Looking for a strong mother," combined with mentions of cold steel and foundry, initially seemed maybe peculiar but were regrettably dismissed, only later revealed as ominously foreshadowing his true, deeply sinister nature. It really highlights how red flags can be rationalized away, can't they? Especially when someone is looking for connection.
This story is a powerful, almost textbook illustration of a predator's calculated method. meticulously executed in stages. It starts with the expert use of online platforms to target and assess, leveraging perceived weaknesses here, Shelley's likely desire for a partner. He then disarms with carefully constructed charm, isolates the target from her support network, and only then reveals his true, terrifying intent. The very first profound red flag, even before the date really began, was the man letting himself into the house without even knocking or ringing the bell, completely unnoticed by the family dogs. He then silently walked upstairs to where the daughters were. His chilling opening, "Well, well, well, I didn't know I was getting a two-for-one deal," delivered quietly in a gravelly low voice, immediately establishes his predatory nature and his objectification of the daughters. That's a profound invasion of privacy and basically a declaration of intent.
And the physical discrepancies they noticed are absolute crucial here, suggesting a deliberate attempt at deception. The man in person looked like his profile picture in some ways, but he had salt and pepper, not jet black hair, and his eyes were not ice blue, but black, not brown black. It looked like this guy was 100% pupil. This isn't just a bad photo, it suggests a significant visual change, maybe dye, or just a profound difference in how he actually looked. It hints at a deliberate attempt to mask his true identity or nature. Yet when Shelley finally enters the room, he immediately shifts his tone, acting apologetic and charming, even calling her mommy, a term that felt dirty to the girls. Shelley, despite her initial unease and her daughter's obvious discomfort, is effectively disarmed by his practiced charm and apologies. It demonstrates the power of social conditioning to override intuition.
Right, and his manipulative tactics continue on what was supposed to be their date. He claims they have reservations at the wrong restaurant, then almost immediately suggests a picnic. When Shelley says she didn't do well outdoors, he cleverly uses the guilt trip, "I just drove so long to get here," followed by the truly manipulative, "You kinda owe me." This carefully constructed emotional blackmail effectively coerces her into agreeing to go to his vacation home, a log cabin near Bethel, New York, only about 35 minutes from our town. This is a classic, highly effective isolation tactic, designed to move the target to a remote, controlled location under false pretenses, far from any immediate help or witnesses. It's a calculated move to gain total control over her environment.
The escalating unease at the cabin is palpable, almost suffocating. He starts making overtly disturbing comments. How easy it was to get her alone, and how he likes strong mommies because they have such fight, but she caved. This is the critical point where Shelley has this profound, terrifying realization. This wasn't the man she thought it was. This also wasn't the man in the picture, and Shell started to slowly realize this. The mask is slipping. The true, horrifying reality is starting to emerge. When she finally finds the courage to ask to go home, his true nature is fully unleashed. He drops all pretense of charm.
The chilling interrogation that follows this request is deeply disturbing. It reveals a clear, premeditated agenda. After Shelley asks to leave, he immediately starts asking these profoundly inappropriate, terrifying questions about her daughters. What did we do that she didn't like? What got us spankings? What were the naughty things you got in trouble for? And then the ultimate horrifying question for any parent. Would you sacrifice yourself for our girls? These questions aren't random. They're designed to assess her maternal instincts, her breaking point, and to psychologically torture her. The details of what she saw in the back of his work truck, what she thought were chains in a bucket sitting on a desk that was drilled into the floor, a duffel bag, and very large metal objects, combined with the pervasive smell of bleach and metal in the garage point, unequivocally to a clear, pre-planned kill room or torture chamber. It transforms the abstract threat into a horrifyingly concrete reality.
And the digital stalking confirmed this whole operation was premeditated, deeply researched. He pulled out pictures of his little flip phone that he had of us. He must have found Shell's Facebook, and he took pictures of our pictures and had them on his phone, waving it around, telling Shell what a good, strong mommy she had been to us. This is pure objectification, a terrifying invasion of privacy, and undeniable proof he'd meticulously researched them online, turning her digital footprint into a weapon. But Shelley, with incredible quick thinking and immense bravery, made a desperate call to the sheriff who, by sheer luck, was a local and a friend. The man immediately panicked, throwing his duffel bag, attempting to ram the sheriff's car, and then driving through the yard in a desperate, violent escape.
This entire story serves as a chilling, urgent reminder of the profound dangers inherent in our increasingly digital world, where a digital footprint can just effortlessly become a weapon in the hands of a predator. The aftermath speaks volumes about the profound, lasting trauma Shelley endured, experiencing paranoia issues, constantly questioning how long he was in the house when he just let himself in. Did he put cameras anywhere? Did he mess with food in the house to hurt someone? The eerie Facebook messages received months later, two of which they definitely knew were from him, just solidified the enduring fear, the pervasive sense of violation. It underscores that even after the physical danger passed, the psychological invasion continued, leaving a permanent scar. This is a powerful testament to the long-term effects of attempted coercive control and violence.
Okay, now we shift gears to another, perhaps even more primal, kind of unsettling experience. Here, the threat isn't a direct human interaction, but a felt presence, or a series of inexplicable phenomena that strongly suggest an unseen, maybe malevolent intrusion into deeply personal spaces. Let's delve into The Invisible House Guest. This first story in this section is kind of a classic haunted house narrative, but it comes with a terrifying, very real-world twist. It takes place in a large, old Victorian house where a student experiences this escalating paranoia that there's someone living in our house that shouldn't be. This deeply unsettling feeling grows particularly strong after several housemates move out, leaving only 3 people in what was originally a house for 8. The sheer size and age of the house itself, high ceilings, lots of empty rooms, it inherently creates this eerie, almost oppressive setting that just amplifies every creak and shadow.
Exactly. And this is where the absence of a visible perpetrator often cultivates a deeper, more primal kind of fear. This particular series of subtle yet rapidly escalating intrusions, rather than just being, poltergeist activity, strongly suggests an intelligent, hidden human presence. The very first detail, the attic hatch, is profoundly unnerving. It had always been a crack open since they moved in, just a constant thing. But recently the crack shut. The significant detail that elevates this from just a minor observation is that the house has very high ceilings, making it impossible for the narrator or her housemate to reach. And her boyfriend was just too creeped out to go near it. This immediately implies an external, unauthorized intervention. It strongly suggests someone else, someone who shouldn't be there, deliberately closed it.
Right, someone who shouldn't be there. Someone with access and a deliberate intention to conceal their presence. Then there are the badly rolled cigarettes. For months, these really badly rolled cigarettes would mysteriously appear downstairs. Initially, they chalked it up to a housemate who only smoked when drinking, a plausible explanation, right? But the phenomenon continued even after that housemate moved out. The final, most unsettling detail about these cigarettes is when one was found half-smoked and stubbed out on the lolly. A lollipop the boyfriend had bought specifically for the narrator. This wasn't just evidence of an unseen presence. It was a deliberate, intimate act of disrespect, a deeply personal marking or defilement of something meant for her. As she says, neither I nor my boyfriend would have stubbed out a cigarette on a lolly he bought me, underscoring the malicious intent.
And it's crucial to recognize these aren't just singular, isolated incidents that you can easily dismiss. The accumulating series of events compounds the unease, chipping away at any sense of safety. There are the tidy recycling bins. The narrator and her boyfriend come home from the shop to find the recycling bins were an absolute mess when they left. But now, they were all neatly stacked and tidy. This is a clear, deliberate act of organized presence, not random chance, not a casual mess. It's someone consciously cleaning or arranging things, further implying a consistent resident hidden presence in their home, deliberately interacting with their personal space.
But the tiny barcode stickers are what truly weirded out the narrator the most, pushing her sense of reality to its breaking point. After a weekend away, tiny barcode stickers from some nail art sticker sheets were discovered, all stuck in a sort of lined-up shape on the sofa, lots of them just in this sort of hourglass number 8 sort of shape. No one in the house took responsibility for this bizarre act, and crucially, no one would intentionally damage furniture with a damage deposit on the line. It's a bizarre, almost artistic, and profoundly unsettling form of invasion, a deliberate, cryptic message left in their most personal space.
And this shift in perspective, from dismissing things as just a quirky old house or another housemate, to the terrifying realization that someone is living here, vividly highlights the immense psychological burden of information overload. When multiple, seemingly unrelated anomalies defy all previous logical explanations, it inevitably leads to acute paranoia. The mind, in its basic need to make sense of the world, converges on the most terrifying yet coherent narrative that can explain all these different observations. Add to this the pervasive auditory phenomena, the banging and sounds like footsteps or taps, things being turned on or things being dragged across the floor. While these sounds were initially dismissed as just the quirks of an old house or other housemates, the growing paranoia connects all these terrifying dots into a single, cohesive, and deeply chilling conclusion: an unseen, malicious intruder.
And then there's the chilling possibility directly linked to the lost keys. The boyfriend lost his house keys a good while back. Anyone could have picked up these keys and found out where we lived. This seemingly minor detail provides a crucial, very real potential entry point for an intruder. It immediately transforms the abstract, almost ghostly fear into a very concrete, human, and imminent threat to their physical safety. The narrator's final conclusion: the more I stay at my own house, the more it seems the only explanation for these things happening is there is someone living in our attic, and it scares the shit out of me so much that I refuse to check. Speaks volumes about the profound psychological impact of an unseen, intelligent intruder and the deep-seated terror of confronting the unknown that lies just above them. Our final story takes us to the mail delivery, where a package delivery driver encounters this unnervingly empty cabin at the end of a remote, hard-to-access driveway, along with a series of other strange details that lead her to a truly disturbing speculation of foul play. The sheer overwhelming isolation of the location is the very first thing that hits you. It immediately sets a tone of vulnerability. It's a route super deep in the country. It requires driving down a long gravel street, which then abruptly turns into no mailbox, no driveway, no gravel, just a little bit of a path. The drive itself is perilous. Land is super unpredictable. If one tire were to slip off the side, the whole thing would go down, making it an incredibly dangerous, terrifyingly vulnerable place to be, with no easy escape or witnesses.
Yeah, this narrative immediately raises a critical question about the profound nature of fear when experienced in extreme isolation. The cabin's appearance is also a significant incongruous detail. From the outside, it looks like a Walter White Season 5 style cabin, a shack, old like a cabin that was built in the late 50s with no repairs. What's truly unusual, though, are the multiple satellite dishes, oddly positioned along the driveway, a detail that feels completely out of place for such a decrepit remote building. These technological anomalies amid a scene of neglect create this distinct cognitive dissonance, hinting at an active, sophisticated yet hidden presence.
What strikes me here is that it's the empty interior that truly sends alarms blaring. Through the large glass window on the front door, the driver observes that the main room is completely empty. The only things that are in this room are two foldable metal chairs, both unfolded. Both are facing a corner of the room, but nothing is in the corner. Critically, she repeats, there was nothing in that house. Nothing. It was a shell. The sheer, curated emptiness, the two chairs meticulously placed and facing nothing. It's profoundly unsettling. Far more disturbing than just an abandoned building. It's the calculated, deliberate arrangement of so little, yet enough to suggest a terrifying purpose, that truly sparks the imagination and fuels that deep, existential sense of dread. What kind of activity needs two chairs in an otherwise empty room facing a blank corner? It implies an audience, a subject, an unseen interaction.
Right. The absence of any rational, benign explanation, combined with this series of peculiar, unsettling observations, creates a vacuum. And the mind, in its desperate attempt to make sense of the insensible, inevitably fills that void with the most unsettling possibilities. The driver's primal sixth sense kicked in, and my brain obviously said this isn't right. Her immediate instinctive defensive actions, taking her hood and hat off for a full peripheral view, actively scanning for neighbors, show her primal instincts kicking into high gear, overriding her conscious thoughts. As she walks back to her truck, she feels a presence, describing it as hanging onto my back, getting heavier and heavier. This visceral, felt presence in an otherwise empty, isolated place amplifies the pervasive sense of dread, confirming her subconscious alarm.
And then the vanishing evidence, which transforms this from merely strange to actively sinister. As she drives away, just 4 feet away from this dude's entrance to the driveway, there's a trash bag in the middle of the street. It's open just a little bit. I slow down, and it looks like there's a woman's sweater or something in there. She contacts a friend, who wisely suggests taking pictures. But when she returns a mere 5 minutes later, the trash bag is completely gone. This is the critical moment. The trash bag, especially with its suggestive contents, transforms a mere anomaly into potential evidence of a deliberate cover-up. It amplifies the psychological impact of the unknown, from a vague feeling to a concrete suspicion of foul play.
The haunting speculation that fills the void left by these events is profoundly disturbing. The driver herself had this pre-existing dark thought about her job. How crazy it would be if somebody was holding people hostage in their house, torturing them and ordering their food and house supplies online because they are afraid of leaving the house with the kidnapped people alone. This grim thought, probably dismissed as occupational fantasy, was terrifyingly rekindled by her experience. It leads her to wonder, was that a kill room? Was someone or multiple people held hostage on that property? Something was up. The profound lack of closure, with her boss assuring her he'd contact the police, but her never heard anything back about it, leaves those chilling questions hanging unanswered. It ensures that she thinks about that very often, and every single time I do, I get chills down my spine just because of the thought of the unknown. It's the enduring terror of the unanswered questions, the unresolved horror that truly lingers. If we connect all these individual stories to the broader picture, what consistently emerges is this shared thread running through every single one, whether it's about direct human threats or these unseen, unsettling presences. It's the profound disruption of perceived safety and the visceral, undeniable power of intuition. These accounts vividly demonstrate the absolute importance of truly trusting that gut feeling, that internal alarm, even when you can't logically explain why something feels wrong. From a child's inexplicable discomfort with a trusted teacher to a loyal dog's unprecedented protective snarl, those internal alarms are there for a profound evolutionary reason. These narratives powerfully illustrate how vulnerability manifests in so many forms, from childhood innocence to the isolation of a remote delivery route, from the trust placed in an online profile to the sanctity of one's own home, and how easily that trust can be exploited or that safety shattered. They challenge us to refine our understanding of danger, moving beyond the obvious threats to the subtle, insidious signals our minds and bodies pick up.
You've hit on something vital there. These deep dives aren't just about sharing thrilling or chilling tales. They are, in fact, vital lessons in human psychology and survival. They teach us to be more acutely observant, to meticulously question anomalies, and to deeply understand that vulnerability exists in countless forms, whether it's the isolation of a remote location, the carefully curated facade of an online profile, or simply being alone with someone who just feels off. We've seen in these stories how disconcertingly easy it is to be manipulated, or how quickly seemingly normal situations can turn dangerous, but also, critically, how quick thinking, strategic communication, and most importantly, trusting those primal instincts can be absolutely life-saving. The consistent, overarching message across all these accounts is to pay meticulous attention to those internal alarm bells and the subtle, often nonverbal signs that something isn't quite right. Even when logic tries desperately to rationalize it away or social norms compel us to ignore it, that quiet whisper of doubt might be your most important warning. And there you have it, a deep dive into some of the most chilling corners of real-life encounters. These stories aren't just for entertainment. They are powerful, urgent reminders to stay vigilant, to cultivate and listen to your inner alarms, and to deeply trust those around you who might also sense something isn't quite right. Whether it's a subtle, almost imperceptible shift in someone's demeanor, an unnervingly coordinated movement by strangers, or an inexplicable, persistent oddity in your own home, sometimes the scariest and most dangerous things are precisely those we can't quite logically explain, but instinctively feel.
This raises an important, deeply personal question for you, our listener. What specific details or insights from these diverse tales truly stand out to you? And more importantly, how might these stories subtly or profoundly shape your own perception of safety, your interactions with strangers, or even your sense of security within the familiar spaces around us? Pay unwavering attention to those whispers of intuition, those quiet alarms, because as we've seen today, they might just be your most valuable and life-saving guide.
Absolutely. Keep an eye out for those subtle shifts, trust your instincts, and maybe, just maybe, give your furry friends an extra scratch behind the ears. They might just be trying to tell you something incredibly important. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.